Hi, we are here today with Stephane Janson, partner at Pacific Channel. Thank you for joining us here today, Stephane.
Such a pleasure.
Now, to begin with, can you give us a quick introduction to Pacific Channel and the work that you do?
Sure. So Pacific Channel is a deep tech fund based in New Zealand. We define deep tech broadly as solving complex problems, usually problems that require career scientists with PhDs or degrees in advanced engineering to solve.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not e-commerce, right? It's not fintech, but it is things like biotech, medical devices, diagnostics. It is things like energy, future of food, AI. So those are the kinds of things that we like to invest in.
Brilliant. And how's your journey been so far to becoming a partner at a VC fund?
Yeah, it's been great. So I started my career all the way back in 2011. So like most VC partners, I started as a banker. I was at ING Bank.
Right.
And I, at the time, was working on a fintech project. It went to a TED conference, and there was a award ceremony over there. There was a project competition. It took first place. And so very briefly in the world of fintech project managers, I kind of became known. And there was, I got contacted by a guy called John Medved, who was starting the VC scene in Israel. And he said to me, hey, look, I have this idea for a big online platform, venture capital raising funds. And I need someone who speaks Hebrew and who understands finance and who understands technology. And I hear you're the guy. So I went to Israel and I joined John. And John, I rode that wave. So Our Crowd, this venture fund that he built, became the largest VC fund in Israel, about $2 billion deployed into 300 or so companies. So we had some success over there. We were in Beyond Meat before they went public. We were in Hyperloop before Richard Branson came and made it Virgin Hyperloop. We were in a small company called Sobi, which we sold to Uber, and then they sold to Lime, so that became Lime Scooters. We had a little bit of, we had some hits in Israel. Moved to the US after meeting my wife at work. We then went there. I worked for the billionaire Richard Ressler for almost 2 years at his venture capital fund called Orchard. And then a recruiter reached out to me and said, hey, look, when you left New Zealand, there was no VC scene over there. There is now. Are you interested in coming back and becoming a partner at Pacific Channel? So I said, absolutely.
Amazing. It's safe to say that you have a delightful journey. And it's been amazing that, that you are here today sharing this with us, with our viewers. Now, as you know, that, the pace of technological change is increasing. So how does that affect your thesis?
Yeah. So, we find it's always interesting to invest in something that actually is solving the problem of of technology constantly changing. So I'll give you an example. We are investing in a company called Insitugen. And Insitugen is looking at, it's creating a platform for detection of hormones, right? And it's a multi-use platform. The chief scientist behind Insitugen was working in a lab and working on this problem of doping detection, right? So when professional athletes or animals in professional racing, horse and camel racing, use drugs, performance-enhancing drugs. The problem there is that synthetic chemists, right, underground chemists, are constantly creating new drugs that can avoid the detection of the test. So you asked me, what do you do when technology is constantly changing? Well, so Insitugen actually said, instead of testing for chemicals, instead of looking for chemistry, Insitugen is the first company in the world that is actually looking at what happens on the biological level, no matter what the molecule looks like. So even if the synthetic chemist can change the molecule, what happens in the biology that is always something that we can look at, right? And by doing that, they were able to turn the fact that technology is always changing to their advantage. They said, hey, we've provided a solution to the fact that technology is always changing. And they built this solution that has the ability now to detect not only doping in professional sports, but also it can be used to predict early development of cancer and other conditions in pets, cats and dogs. It can be used to detect microplastics that imitate the effects of hormones in the body in fresh waters. It can be used to test the efficacy of sports supplements, right? They actually have 2 companies in Australasia that are working with them on that project, right? And in fact, a host of other applications, right? Treatment for breast cancer, all kinds of things like that for helping detect whether the treatment is working. So So we're very excited about that. And that's an example of actually when the fact that technology is always changing, we turned that into a problem to be solved, and the company's building a great product around that.
Amazing. And I'm sure that your investors will be really happy with that you worked on it.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that, you worked in UK and Israel. So what has been attractive about Australasia?
Yeah. So Australasia is really interesting. I think compared to, for example, the US, Australasia is a smaller market, but there are advantages that come with that. So, in the US, no one loves to invest in companies that necessarily target the government as a consumer. At least historically, it's changing a bit now. But historically, the government was a terrible customer because there's all this red tape, there's regulations, right? As soon as a new party comes in, the new government says, well, everything the old government did is terrible, so we're going to cancel all those programs. So it was very risky to sell to government. But in Australia and New Zealand, because government is so much smaller, right, it can be actually a lot more nimble. So we, for example, are investing in this company called Vortex. Vortex is generating this big 8-kilometer tall spinning column of vapor, right? And then putting a wind turbine on its side in the middle of that and harvesting it for electricity. Yeah. Now, that's something you can't do in New Jersey, right? No one would ever give you the approval to do that. Yeah. But we were able to go to small town Gisborne, New Zealand, and we were able to go to the mayor and say, hey, we can bring tech jobs, we can bring all this awareness, right, about this cool project that's happening in your town. Are you interested? And of course, he was, an enthusiastic partner. So in fact, the smallness, right, of Australasia, it makes it, I think, in many ways, a great place to be this hotbed of experimentation.
Amazing. Now, for my next question, I'd love to know that Pacific Channel has returned 6.8 times capital. So what's the secret sauce? Anything you can share with us?
Yeah. So I think there's sort of like two components to this, right? So at the end of the day, multiple on capital is what is the input price, right? So how high is the valuation when you come in versus what is the output price, right? How high is the exit price when you sell the company or when the company lists on the stock exchange? And so on the first part of that equation, the secret sauce is we do something that most VC funds are actually unwilling to do. So we'll go to universities and we will negotiate with the university to get exclusive license to the IP. Sometimes, the founder will be the chief scientist who developed the IP and they can build the company. But often that person doesn't want to, leave their job. They want to be a lecturer. They want to keep publishing. That's fine. We'll bring our own people in who will become the early team, right? Our people from our fund will actually get them to be the early management. And then when the company reaches a certain stage where it's stable, we'll recruit a future professional CEO to take the company over. Yeah. And because we come in so early and do that ideation and early company building that so few VC funds are willing to do, we're able to capture a much larger piece of equity right up front, right? So we come in, we get more equity up front because we come in very early, our input price is very low. And then the second piece of that is the output price. So how do we get that very high? The way we do that is we actually have 4 Americans on the team, and we are specialized, I guess you could say. The name Pacific Channel, the idea was that we would get companies in Australasia and channel them across the Pacific to larger markets like the US and like China, right? So we have a Chinese person on the team, we have 4 Americans on the team who do that. One example, we had a company called Certus Bio, for which I'm a director, and they sell a machine that goes into lactose plants. It turns out that some of the biggest customers in the world are in the American Midwest, in the north of America. I literally just met the CEO in Minneapolis airport, right? We jumped into a car, we drove through the Midwest, went into multiple factories, and we together, we rolled up our sleeves, we got dirty, and we sold and we got them their first customer, right? And so as soon as you do that, the next valuation that the company raises, well, now they have American customers, right? So you build on relatively low, right, R&D salaries in Australasia, but then when it comes time to actually raise the next valuation and grow the company, right, you can increase the value of the company by getting valuations that are based on the fact that the company has American customers and therefore has an American valuation. So you can build low, sell relatively high, and that's how you get that 6.8 multiple on capital.
Thank you for sharing these wonderful insights with us. I know our audience is going to be really happy about that. Now, as a parting question, I have to ask you, we're here today at the Emergence 2023 conference and you're one of our esteemed sponsors. So how's your experience been with the conference so far?
Yeah, it's been great. So, I've been meeting VCs from all over Australia. I've been meeting investors who are over here kind of looking for something different. and it's been good for us. You know, we're here to raise our third fund, and so far there's been some great interest. And so no, I've gotten what I wanted out of this event. It's been
Amazing. And Wholesale
fantastic.
Investor is pleasure to have your company here today. And for our viewers, if you would like to get in touch with the team at Pacific Channel, we are going to have the details at the side of the screen or in the description. So feel free to reach out to them. And thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a delightful conversation with you, Stephane.
Thank you.
Thank you.